Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's Modern Investing on Pod TV. My name is Sasha Starr, and today we have Jim Eat from Eat Foundation. Welcome to the show, Jim.
Thank you, Sasha. Great to be here.
Also, our producer Mark Lee will help us, while Milan Sombrak is trying to fix his internet problem. So we're waiting at 2 o'clock. There will be an announcement from Federal Reserve, and then at 2:30 we will have comments by Jerome Powell, which is just as important, as probably even more important than announcement at 2 o'clock, and we'll see how it will play out. Um, my indications are that market should move a little bit ahead after this 2:30 business announcements and so on. But we'll see. It's always market will decide which way to go and how far. What I would like to notice is that for last month, if not longer, is creating, in my opinion, unbearable situation where United States and probably all the rest of the world are in the whims of one person. And he's playing the market to amuse himself. And his name is Donald Trump. And everything was going on with the market right now. The opinion is that if market tanked on the Liberation Day, which was a month ago, April 2nd, and market tanked quite considerably. And on the 9th, a week later, when he announced that he will postpone this for 90 days, market went up quite a bit. So it seems to me that any news now about all possible trade deals or so on should be positive for the market. But my question is, where are these deals? He was saying just recently that he has 90 countries are waiting to get to Mar-a-Lago, to kiss his ass, to have some deals. 90. Where is the one? Jim, what do you think about all that?
Well, there's one country that's not bending over, kissing the ring. It's China. And China is doing some of the right things, which I've been advocating for the U.S. for a long time, cutting interest rates and making it easier for banks to make loans. China's doing that right now. And, the idea of the capitalist market in the United States has always been competition and cutting rates and making it easier for loans to be to people starting businesses. It's been the backbone of the country's economy for a long time. And China is doing the right things and the U.S. is not. I don't expect the Fed to lower interest rates today. I might be surprised, but I think they're going to take a stay the course action because they don't know what Trump is up to any more than anyone else does. It's hard for any company to predict. It's hard for any company to invest right now. And I think that the rest of the world is going to find that they can handle their own economies without the United States, even though the United States has been a leader for so long. And we're going to experience items missing in our grocery store shelves, and they're going to be more expensive. So we haven't faced the repercussions yet. Although Trump's approval rating has gone down, we haven't really been hit as hard as we're going to be hit. And so I think I'm holding out for the midterm elections where hopefully people will give at least the House back so that he doesn't get his own way to do anything he wants anymore, because anything he wants is counter to the American way. It's not, we should be opposing countries like Russia and enjoying free market conditions. And Trump's got it all backwards.
Yeah, I agree with you. Mark, what do you think about this current situation?
Well, this is very dire. I was actually, I think I told you on a past show that I ordered, I think it was yesterday, some DoorDash, and my DoorDash driver called me and said that the aisles are empty. I was just trying to get some simple supplies. I think I was trying to get some household cleaning supplies, and I think I was trying to get some just detergent, and he basically yeah, I think it was the gentleman that was my driver and he wrote me back. And he's like, and he even sent me a picture. And the picture literally showed the cabinets being empty. So like the cabinets were totally empty and all along those lines. And that's not just here in North Carolina, but I think that there have been similar situations in California and other places. So this was actually at Walgreens. And I don't know if you heard this, Sasha, but he actually rolled back that notion of the tariffs because I think it was yesterday that he came out and admitted, and they said it was a slip up that no deals had been signed. So he actually came out yesterday and said that there is no deal on the table. So he actually said that in the news yesterday, and they've been giving him a hard time because he said that
It was,
only
it was during his press conference with Canadian Prime Minister, where he admitted that, yeah, there are no deals to be signed. And in fact, I'm not going to sign any deals at all because I don't need to sign anything. They have to come to me, ask for some rolling back those tariffs or decreases tariffs or do just anything. And it will be up to me whether to agree to it or not. With some people I will agree, I will help them, and some other people I will not agree and I will not help them at all. So it's all up to me. There's nothing to sign and just enjoy yourself. That's what his message. It's not a very prudent message for financial markets at all, because in financial markets, people like a certainty. Mm-hmm. They are scared of uncertainty, and they cannot make any long-term plans. They cannot predict even future earnings. Many companies refused to make any projections because they know what they're based on, and that's a horrible, horrible situation for business. So what I'm saying again, we are all hostages of one man. Never happened in history. Mark?
Yeah, speaking of uncertainty, I had a question, and I know this might actually play to one of Jim's expertise and everything, because I know he was part of it in the past and all along those lines. But, a lot of tech giants were really behind Trump, whether it was Elon Musk, whether it was Zuckerberg, or whether it was a number of others that have been out there in the tech space and all along those lines. But I did see that Meta had fallen a little bit yesterday, and I think some of the other ones have been fallen as well. So I wanted to hear from you and Sasha, as well as Jim, because I know Jim had background in that field. Are we in the middle of another tech bubble bust and everything like that? Because it seems like I know tech used to be a big industry that a lot of folks were excited about, but now they came by supporting Trump, and now some people are upset that they supported Trump. So I'm wondering if we're in the middle of a tech bubble bust.
Jim?
Well, it's quite possible. The tech Silicon Valley was behind Trump, but the two leaders were Peter Thiel, who actually spoke at the Republican convention, the first Trump administration, and Elon Musk, and they're both South Africans, and they grew up in apartheid, and they both do not believe in democracy. They believe in running it like a corporation, the country like a corporation, which means there's a CEO. So, and that's what Trump wants to be. He doesn't want to be a CEO so much as a dictator, but it's the same concept. There's one guy in charge, and our country is founded on the equality of the judicial, congressional, and executive branches being balanced. And the imbalance we're seeing now is the executive power has been in way out of control, and even the judicial branch has been supporting it. There are 3 or 4 judges that believe have been ruling in favor of the executive branch. That's got to change. The trust of the American people has vanished. We no longer believe in the institutions. And so when the trust is gone, how do you rebuild it? Well, I think there's a certain percentage of the population, at least 1/3 of it, is excited about what Trump's doing. And more and more people are becoming disillusioned.
Jim, I'm not so sure about 1/3 because, in my opinion, let's see, 1/3 voted for Trump to be a president, but only, I say 10% of that third are MAGA Republicans. Only 10%. So 90%, they are normal Republicans, and I don't think they support everything what's Trump doing. Now, compared to what you did, you compared running country as a corporation, I think it's a totally wrong approach
Oh, I
because
agree. I
in
agree, but that's the Musk philosophy.
yeah, we see in a
Your field as well.
corporation, let's see if you disagree with the corporation, okay, you can quit and you can find the work in
Right.
another corporation or somewhere else. But in the United States, if you are being hurt, how you can escape that? You cannot move anywhere, even to Canada. It's a process that you have to do it. I find that comparatively to US, Canada in somewhat more peaceful situation than the United States because the division, you see, we had just election recently,
Yes.
the division between people who supported Carney, um, they were not really, okay, they voted for him, same as I voted for his opponent, but nobody was fighting anybody. There was no. Actually, the whole election in Canada is taken 1 month. One debate
Well,
in French, one debate in English, and that's it. Election results done. I don't know. In America, it's like a 2 years show, and with preliminaries and primaries,
Primary. Yes.
and it's insane. The billions of dollars are being wasted for this process, and it's just hard to believe. Well, of course, America has much more resources than Canada, but at the same time, the wisdom of using all those resources just to get to one result one way or another is just.
Well, the country has never been more divided since the 60s. In the 60s, it was primarily about the Vietnam War, and things of major, it was not about an individual. And so this is a candidacy of a personality, and whatever charisma he has, his audiences eat it up. But I think the majority of the country is fed up. And I hope that in the midterms that will be expressed. But people are getting turned off and they're getting apathetic, and so at least a third of the country is not voting at all, because they just feel like they're throwing their hands up, and that's the hard part, is to rally them, to get the people who have decided, my vote doesn't count, to think that yes, it does. Um, it and it's your voice, and you've been given the privilege of utilizing it, and so getting people to the poll, to the voting um, places, and to cast their votes is going to be essential in the midterms and the next election. But right now, somebody has to rein Trump in. And normally that would be the judicial and congressional branches. Right now, the Congress, even though the Republicans are talking in whispers right now, no one's had any spine. And the thing is they've always been afraid of being primaried themselves, that there's some mega candidate will defeat them in the primaries. So they've been afraid of losing their jobs. And they've got to grow a backbone and say, if I lose my job, I lose my job. This is the right thing to do.
Jim, it seems like a few of them have grown a backbone, because I think there is a small minority of centrists, and it is a minority, but they have stepped up against Trump, particularly on supporting Medicaid and keeping Medicaid solvent and all along those lines. So definitely it seems like there is a small group, and maybe it'll grow, but there's a small group of folks that have developed a backbone, including some that are surprising folks. I know on one of our earlier shows, people were talking about the fact that Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's got her own issues and everything, but apparently she's even going against Trump on certain things and all along those lines. So maybe there's a small group that is either growing a backbone or realizing that they might have to change their positions based on wanting to have a bigger role in politics if they want to get a office in Georgia, which is apparently something Marjorie Taylor Greene is thinking about.
Yeah,
but
Mitch
she
McConnell.
feels that her position is so secure that she can actually get more votes by going against Trump.
And Mitch McConnell, who's already said he's not running anymore, didn't cast a vote the last time a controversial motion came up. But that's not enough. You have to be in opposition, and so this is the thing. And there are rumblings, and I do agree that people are are stepping up in terms of Medicare. He's trying to gut Social Security. He's just signed an executive order to defund NPR. These are things that all of us have taken for granted, and we didn't realize they could be taken away from us so easily by a stroke of the pen. And that's not the way the founders decided to organize the country's government. The executive power needs to be reined in. That was their philosophy. That's been the way the country's run up until now.
So, but basically, by ruling by degrees, presidential degrees, and he can actually ignore Senate and House.
That's what he thinks.
That's what he thinks, right? Yeah, but sometimes you have to fight for your rights. And if they don't, he will be a dictator if he's not already.
And we don't need a dictator. But last time I checked, and Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the oath of office actually say that you have to swear to the Constitution to uphold it? And he said that he didn't know whether that was the case and everything, even though I think he just did that like maybe, but this is May, so this is the 5th month of the year, so he did it 4 months ago. So he
did it in January. Yeah,
what he did was what he was supposed to do.
He swore to uphold the Constitution, and he's the type of man that has contradicted himself from one day to the next, and upholding the hey, there he is.
Hey, Milan, welcome to the show. So we're discussing whether Trump can rule by presidential decrees and actually defy the House and Senate and even judiciary.
Even the Supreme Court. Yeah.
So then that makes him a dictator, a real dictator. I mean, what's the difference?
Well, we think of all the Roman emperors that we remember, and Nero was one of the ones that we remember the most because he was fiddling while Rome burned. And I think that the history will remember Trump very, very much because it will be an example of what not to do.
Speaking of what not to do, I learned something on another show, which I did not know because the gentleman does his show out of Baltimore. But Jim and Sasha, did you realize that, speaking of the tech giants, that for the first time ever, the Easter egg roll that took place actually had sponsors? So they actually had sponsors. So Facebook and them actually were there and were paying a certain amount of money in order to be a sponsor. But this is never happened in the history of what's going on in the United States and in the White House. So he actually brought sponsorship to the White House. So this is something brand new that has never happened before.
And his son is out negotiating deals. That will profit the Trump family, the Trump organizations. This conflict of interest is so obvious. And no one. If anything like this had happened in the Biden administration, there would have been an enormous uproar. And there's nothing but silence greeting these outrageous conflicts of interest.
I've noticed, I was listening very carefully yesterday press conference between Trump and Carney, our Canadian Prime Minister. What's interesting is that 95% of the time, Trump did all the talking. Carney, even when the questions were addressed to Carney, Trump would immediately jump in and would start his talk, and he's talking about, he start talk about one thing, then immediately goes to the next thing. Then he goes against Biden and he says all the problems that we have today, it's a Biden's problem, it's a Democrats' problem, it's we are going to fix it. Jim, do you think it's a valid suggestion that Trump went all in on tariffs and everything else and firing so many people or so on? He wants to get recession as soon as possible. So by the time that it will start getting closer to midterm elections, recession may subside or maybe even fixed at that time.
Well, I think we're in a recession right now. The numbers won't become calculated and we won't be terming it officially a recession, but I think we're in it right now. And I think, during the Biden administration, companies were reporting record earnings, wages were going up, employment was going up, unemployment was going down. And all of that is going to reverse. And there's going to be a lag between people realizing it and the actual fact of it happening. It's happening now. And if Trump thinks that he can turn the economy around on a dime. And before the midterms, he's an economic, third grader. He doesn't understand how the economic.
I noticed, Jim, that even the record earnings now is not enough. It's a guidance, and many companies refuse to provide any guidance because they don't know what's going to be tariffs possible.
They are announcing their pre-earning estimates.
No estimates.
An encouraging thing is that an increasing number of Trump's former friends, Republicans, are turning against him now, an increasing number. And so while no president ever has been impeached out of office, Nixon would have been, except he resigned before that happened.
Yeah.
It is possible. You need, I think, a 2/3 majority in the Senate for that to happen. But it could happen with Trump because an increasing number of his former friends are no longer friends of his. That's encouraging, isn't it?
It's encouraging. Again, as we discussed earlier, they're all scared for their jobs, and a lot of them are openly cannot act against Trump for various reasons, and they want to keep their jobs. But what he's doing, and I don't see any clear improvement in this situation, because what yesterday he said, and we discussed it about the tariffs, that he's not planning to do anything. He expects all countries to come to him, get on their knees and beg for forgiveness and give him everything what he wants, and so on. So he's saying, I don't need to sign anything. Anybody who wants some kind of easement of this tariffs has to come to me and plead his case, and I will take a look, and maybe I'll do something, or maybe I don't do anything.
These are the actions of a grade school bully trying to take your lunch money.
Yeah, exactly. That really reminds me of that.
Well, during periods of uncertainty, such as we now have, owning gold and silver is a good way to protect yourself, isn't it?
Yeah, we discussed it already. Yes, it is a sound position, and although they're at almost historic highs, but they can move much higher still. So it's riskier now, of course, to acquire gold and silver positions. There will be a correction in gold. I would expect it could move down to probably 3,100, and in worst case scenario, probably 2,800.
Well, these have been the traditional responses to uncertainty, Milan. You're absolutely right. So there will be a certain percentage of movement in that direction. I don't necessarily think it's the right.
Milan and everybody else here on this call and everything. I think I mentioned this on another show sometime back, but not that far from me is a transformer, and they wanted to make sure that nobody was coming in to steal a certain element and everything. So how big is copper, and is copper something that folks should be invested in? Because they made it very clear not to go in there because there was no copper in there, because they had a substitute element that was not going to be copper. So if you went there trying to steal the copper, there was no copper to be stolen. But I was just wondering how significant is copper as an investment?
No, copper is very valuable investment, but it moves higher when there is the economy expanding, when there are more new projects to be done, and in this case, copper is quite viable. But if there is a contraction, and if there is a recession, which either we're already in, or there will be announced probably in 2 months, and there will be numbers for the existing quarter. In a recession, I'm not so sure about copper. Gold and silver, better choice in my opinion. And probably that's where it's all going. Now, considering the Bitcoin is not moving as gold and silver. It's more tied up to overall high tech, I would say. And if high tech will move down, then the Bitcoin may also move down. Actually, it's kind of on a crossroads right now. Either it will still continue its upward movement to 100,000 and higher, or it will go down to 75, 80,000.
But isn't part of that upward movement because of the president? Because I think the president is now considered one of the top crypto billionaires because of his own crypto coin, and a lot of people were trying to buy his particular brand of crypto, and I think that he is now in the ranks of the crypto billionaires.
Well, I don't know about that because But I do know that it is another conflict of interest. He's promoting crypto.
For sure.
And the one thing that I will say about crypto is that it takes an enormous amount of energy to
Yes.
produce. There are rows of in data centers, rows of computers dedicated to producing Bitcoins.
Bitcoin,
It takes an enormous amount of energy.
Not Trump's coins. Maybe they don't require so much energy. My question is also this: when all these MAGA people will buy all Trump's coins, whom are they going to sell it to?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I don't know who they're going to sell it to and everything
His
like
track record is almost perfect in that whatever he starts, it fails.
that. Hey, I've got to tease
Trump
Milan though.
Bible, Trump whatever, Trump University.
They all failed.
It's just a track record of failure.
Failure.
And
The former mayor of New York, Bloomberg, said that if Trump had taken his inheritance and invested it in the SPY, an exchange traded fund which tracks the S&P 500, he would be better off today.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, he would definitely be better off. Hey, Milan, I've got to tease you and everything because you have brought up a couple of times, and I think Sasha as well, the benefits of gold and all along those lines. And I'm thinking that there is a secret resource of gold that a lot of people are not looking at and all along those lines because it can be very painful and everything. But you are a dentist, and I do know that there are a lot of people throughout the world that have got those lovely gold teeth. So that they need to harvest their own gold and everything in that sense, and maybe use some of the money for their own purposes and everything along those lines. Yeah, I had to tease them, Jim, because I know a lot of people.
I just got too many pictures in my head.
Actually, gold is not used in dentistry anymore. Yeah.
For a long time.
We use some other materials now, and the largest laboratory in the United States will not accept orders of gold for gold restorations. So gold is not used in dentistry anymore. That's history. Yeah.
Yes,
I remember in Russia, people were sort of bragging who has more golden teeth in his mouth. So some people would have 8, 9. Some people had even more. So that was a kind of a.
They would have a gold.
So Milan, that's fake gold that we see with the rappers and the basketball players, because I do know that quite a few of them still do have gold in their mouth, whatever that may be, and everything. So that's fake gold that is in their mouth if they've got it in their mouth.
Actually,
it could be real gold. Quite often people, to show off their wealth, would actually have a gold crown placed right up front somewhere there, so that when they smile, people would see gold.
Actually, it's a good illustration. Remember comedian Steve Martin? One of his jokes was when a beginner comedian was asking him, "What advice would you give to the beginner comedian?" And you know what he said? Always take your wallet on stage.
Yes.
Very practical advice. But
Yes. But in medieval times, being obese was a sign of wealth.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. Yeah.
So it's not always in your own personal best interest to show off how wealthy you are.
wow.
Well, I don't want to get away from investing, but do you know what percentage of North Americans, Canadians, and United States Americans are overweight or obese? Do you know how many?
I don't.
70%.
No way.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, do you know what percentage of the Japanese are obese or overweight?
20%.
4%.
4. Oh my goodness.
And what they do, no nation in history has ever been able to reverse excess weight and obesity in its population. The Japanese don't even want to get there. So what they do is every year they measure the waistlines of the people in Japan. Depending on their height, they decide whether they are overweight or not. If they're overweight, they're taught how to exercise and eat, and then they're measured again a year later. And if they have not met the standard, their employer is fined.
Yeah.
And if they're self-employed, the municipality is fined.
And
Wow.
no soup for you. That's
No food for you at all. Hey, Sasha, because before we started World Edition,
Michael.
with the show on earlier and everything, I was actually on TikTok, and there was a young lady from Canada that I think moved to the Northeast. I want to say New York or Boston or something like that, and all along those lines. And she was talking about that she is going through the process of coming into the United States as a citizen, but she did not feel being deported because she is going through the proper process, and that she thinks that Trump will not come after her and everything like that. So she was very adamant that she is going it in the right way, and Trump will not come after her. So I was wondering, do you think that she is being correct in that assessment? Because I know you talked about Canada and the benefits of Canada. So she's actually coming the other way and everything, but she's like, no, Trump will never come after me because I am doing this the correct way, and all the other people that are being sent across the border are doing it the wrong way, and that's why they're being deported.
Well, that sounds like a little naivete.
I think she should keep her Canadian citizenship just in case. She might need it. We don't know for sure, but most likely. Now, coming back to investing, Jim, what you said about the high-tech stocks, the giants, Magnificent Seven, and so on. They're taking so much weight of S&P and Dow Jones and Nasdaq 100. So without their participation, there is even suckers rally impossible. So if there is anything will move forward one day, it's always with participation, at least some majority, at least of the stocks. There is a decoupling. For example, there is definitely Netflix, Meta, Microsoft, who are doing extremely well. There is I'd say Tesla is quite questionable because it's quite unclear which way it will go. And there are some other Google, Nvidia, and etc. that are on the crossroads. I think Nvidia in the near future should move higher because they have at the end of the month their report, the quarterly report. Most likely it will be a good one, but we'll see.
It's good enough.
It's good enough. The guidance, there are so many things involved. So I wouldn't even bet on that one. I could afford a small participation, like to buy a few calls by the first week of June and see how it will play out. Also, I bought some calls on S&P expiring this Friday. Simply because of this announcement by 2 o'clock. It could move the market somewhat, and I will immediately cash out as soon as it will move. I was doing a pretty good job, and I made quite a bit of money on Palantir. I bought puts a day before.
That was a smart move.
Yeah, I bought puts, and I did quite well on Palantir. Look, Palantir had very good earnings.
Yeah.
Their guidance was not so bad either, but it was not big enough. It was not good enough.
The expectations are the expectations of excessive earnings rather than what were actually reported, even if they're reported to be very good earnings. Sometimes the stock goes down.
But Jim, before I bought puts, I looked at the chart of Palantir, and it's almost vertical, and there's some resistance was obvious. It was just unclear it will still move another $2-3 higher, or resistance is already there and it will move down regardless of the report. And that's how it works. You don't have to be lucky. You have to just look at the charts. This is the key. S&P chart looks pretty good for short term only. For long term, it's going to be a disaster. So enjoy while you can, while it's still moving up. Okay, enjoy it, but it's not going to last long.
Well, we're looking at, according to Goldman Sachs and Bank of America, and I mentioned this previously, we're looking at a decade of stock market returns of 0% or 1% in order for the market to go where it historically always has been. Now, you will still be able to make money selling puts and calls on SPY, regardless of what the market does. Wouldn't you agree with that, Sasha?
You know what? I found it's more lucrative actually This I never done it before, and don't recommend anybody buying puts and calls on S&P, really, because it's a premium. Or even you can do a straddle. You can buy one more expensive call and sell same expiration day. So it's like a vertical call, another cheaper call. So you kind of but you see the problem is that you may not have enough liquidity to get out of transaction because you're trying to get the best spread, and sometimes it doesn't work. And while you are still trying to do that, the market moves against your position. So I would just buy just naked calls and puts. Depends on what you're trying to do. But I wouldn't do
The long strategy of selling in the same day. That's what's modern about the modern investing that he recommends. Is doing it on the same day, expiring on the same day.
Exactly. And I don't
That's
hold.
going to work.
And I'm trying not to hold positions overnight, although sometimes I do. But over the weekend, the only one position that I keep all the time is NVDY because of the dividends, and that's about it. All other positions are silver. I keep silver though.
Yeah, you
Gold-
can't accuse me of not listening to Sasha because NVDY.
Yeah.
It's actually gone up. So it
Yeah,
started
yeah,
to
no.
look on a
Actually, Jim, this is a good indication that Nvidia will move higher because they are. I don't understand really why they are tied up together. Maybe I'm not knowledgeable enough in the mechanisms how it works, but I just noticed that it works. Nvidia was going down, NVDY was going down every single day. When Nvidia starts now to go higher, NVDY is moving higher all the time. So to me,
that's exactly right.
there were even some days recently, this week, maybe last, that Nvidia was moving down, not much, but a few dollars here and there. And NVDY didn't go down and even move a little bit higher. So to me, it's a good indication that Nvidia in next few weeks, maybe 2, 3, whatever, will move higher. Not much higher. I don't expect an explosion of any kind, but probably 125. Maybe even 130 is not unthinkable. It's possible.
But the real play on NVDY is the dividends.
Yes, that's the only thing. And the problem is, would be nice to sell covered calls there, but there is no market. I mean, there is a quotation, there is a huge spread between bid and ask, no liquidity or anything. So
Right.
I used that strategy when I wanted to get rid of, because I had 10,000 shares of NVDY, and I wanted to unload 3,000 and keep 7. And I just hit the bid, and that was a good move because I kept the premium and I kept the shares, and then later on, when stock moved higher, I sold finally 3,000, but at market price, so it worked out. But again, that's
historically speaking, owning the American market by having an exchange traded fund which tracked the S&P 500, and SPY is the best example for a whole lot of reasons that I'll go into if people want me to. But owning that has returned an average of 18% annually for nearly 200 years. Your dividends paying stocks are not returning, giving you that much. That is, people who own dividend paying stocks, very nice, you get your dividend on a regular basis and you can go and spend it. But if you own SPY, you would have gotten 18% annually for nearly 200 years. Now, SPY has been around for 200 years, but it's equivalent.
But the thing is about dividends. This is why it used to be recommended for widows and orphans. Is that you in a market of uncertainty, you can count on the dividend, and so that's secure kind of dividends can be canceled, of course, but or lowered, but
that's true, James. When I was in practice, I had several ladies who were very wealthy because of the earnings that their husband made, and the husband left them with dividend-paying stocks, and they just lived on the dividends. They knew nothing about the stock market. They didn't care about the stock market. Didn't care about investing. They didn't have an advisor whom they paid. They just collected their dividends and lived very nicely. because the dividends were sufficiently large for them to live very nice.
No, and I'm surprised with your estimation of 18% yearly return on S&P because
That's not my estimation. That's fact. Carry on.
no, but you produced very different facts just a while ago, a couple of months ago. It was 6, maximum 8% return. 10, it's like a dream. And all of a sudden you jump to 18%. I don't know what source of your information, but I never heard about 18%.
That's the history of it. But now this, what did you say, 6 or 8%?
Yeah, 6, 8%, yeah.
For how long a period?
2 years, 20 years, 200 years.
Yeah. No.
18, never heard that number, period. Never, ever.
Well, I'm just trying to think about how to show that, and I don't think I'll be able to come up with an answer.
Well, my core portfolio for the last 30 years.
By next Wednesday, I'll have an answer
Okay,
for where that
good enough. Well, in the meantime, I would like to thank everybody for today's show. I think we've discussed a variety of subjects and have a
By
good
the way, I think that Kim was letting you know that it's been on the air and on TikTok, and it's apparently getting a lot of hits on TikTok. So
Cool.
once again, you got a lot of hits on TikTok like you did with Adam. So she was letting you know that. So just passing that word on.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We'll try to keep the good job. Good luck in your investing for next week, and see you on next Wednesday. Same
Thank you
place,
again, Sasha.
same time. Thank you very
Bye,
much.
everyone.
Very good.
Say hi to Rosie for us, Milan.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.